wanna wake up with regret inside my lungs. I don't wanna wake up with sadness on my tongue. Only got one life to live. I can't.
Thank you for joining me again. This is Jasmine, and I have a special guest with me today named Derrek. Derrek, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, everybody. My name is Derrek Bottoms. I guess I'll share a little about myself. I've lived in
Yeah.
Baldwin County for 20 years. I'm from Jacksonville, St. Augustine area. I was born in New Orleans. I've lived here for a good while now. I've really enjoyed it. I'm a beach nut, so I've always said, water's one of the best therapies in the world,
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I really enjoy spending time with my family and friends. Like I always say, I like to make memories, that will last forever.
Anything else you want to share about your background or anything?
Right out of high school, I went through a culinary art program and graduated through culinary arts. Shortly after that, I got a nice role at a hotel. Worked there for a hot minute, excuse me. And then my stepdad took a job in Alabama, and so we moved from Florida to Alabama in 2005, and we've been here ever since. Good thing is, we're close to a lot of our family. I got most of my family in Pensacola. Um, but other than that, just great for this opportunity. You know, I own a detailing business now. I detail cars. I'm debating to get back into cooking or not, but time will tell. Only the person who knows is God.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that since you mentioned it. So you have a faith, obviously, right? What's your
I'm
faith?
Catholic.
But you consider yourself spiritual, right? A little bit?
I do, and
Yeah.
that sometimes.
So yeah, but you have a good relationship with God. You talk a lot to
I,
God. God talks to you. And,
he does.
he uses you. You said to help other people.
He does.
So yeah.
Back in the day, I used to on a lot of my free time. I used to love to volunteer for the special need. I've been doing that off and on for over 20 years. I've enjoyed it. It's fun. When you look at these kids, they don't look at the world like we do.
Right.
They don't see the bad. They see good in everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And all you can do is just do the same thing for them,
Right. And that's good. I do believe there's a reason why there's more and more, um, being born that way with special needs. It's because they look at things differently, and that is their purpose here to help us shift how we see the world, how we see ourselves, and in our relationship with each other. I believe so. They have a special purpose in being here, especially at this time. I do believe it's to assist with that shift that needs to occur with how we look at others and relate to others and look at the world. So you mentioned about a little bit about spirituality. You want to go into a little bit of that? Like do you view, like, what do you think of spirituality is in your opinion? Like, it's different than religion, right?
Yeah, I really don't know. I know one thing. The closest thing that I have to spiritual that is I have vivid dreams that I can remember every detail, everything. And it all started, when I was a kid, but it really got interesting after I lost my dad for 5 years. Um, After my dad died,
How old were you when he died?
I think I was just shy of my 20th birthday.
About the age I was when I lost my dad. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead. About 5 years after your dad died.
but I would always have a dream after he died. But when I woke up from that dream, and it would carry on the next night, you know, it was just weird. And it led all the way to the day my dad died in my dreams.
Did it have anything to do with your dad's death, like in your dreams? Or was it unrelated?
My father was killed in a car accident, so, we never know how long we have on this earth. All we can do is just, you know, thank God every day and have our faith. And I've always said, if you live by your 3 F's, your faith, family, and friends, you'll go far. And people come in our life to help us, to guide us, to teach us. And, like I said, that they come a part of us, and then we're lucky they come a part of our family. It's been,
Even the people that don't stay in our lives, that cause pain, are there to teach us those lessons too. You agree with that?
I do at times.
Well, there's always a lesson to be learned in every relationship, and some growth to occur, even if it is from pain of some kind or sorrow. There's always growth that occurs from that, even those things, and lessons to be learned. And sometimes it's hard to see that at the time. But yeah. So you want to go into a little bit more about that, the dream, or excuse me, so water, about your dreams?
I've been having a lot of dreams lately. Just like I said, nobody knows what the future holds. That's all we can do is just be grateful every day. Waking up and realize that you're not the only one in this world who's fighting demons, depression. You know, Everybody has a story, but all we can do is just move forward. As my dad always said, like I said before, the best gift at life is life itself.
Right.
And all we can do is do what we do. And to go to my dreams, it's just, some of my dreams are great, some of them are dark.
Yeah. Very interesting. I've mentioned this to you before, but I'm going to say it here, that I've never known anybody that has as vivid of dreams as you every single night, and then remembers all the details the next day or days later. Like I know I can't do that. Because it fades after I wake up, and the more time that passes, that the more details pass. But it's really interesting how it's like a part of you almost. It's like you like you're living in your dream, and you're like, it's like a story, like that you read a book and you remember the story. It's really interesting how that is with you. I've never known anybody that has that ability, to has vivid dreams like that, remembers all the details every single day. You have dreams. That's just really neat. Have any of them come true?
Some,
Really? You want? Is it something you want to talk about? Is it like a good one you want to talk about? You don't have to if you don't want to.
um, you know,
Mhm.
I don't know how to say it, but some are good, like I said before, and some are bad.
You want to share a
And
good one? You don't have to share a bad one. Just wondering if you wanted to share an example.
a good one was, me building my relationship back with my sisters that I've lost for so many years. You know, it's hard. You know, some days are good, some days are bad, but all I can do is just keep moving forward and just ask God to please, open that door that's been closed for so long. But I just,
The dream had to do with your sisters that you were sharing. Well, like what happened? Do you want to talk about? Like
it was a good one. We
you
turned
were
out,
just making up with them in the dream,
making up,
healing those relationships,
yeah,
and then it actually has come to pass.
yeah. I prayed about it, and and then I dreamed about it, and then God took, you know,
it manifested.
Yeah, and answered my prayers, and things were going great. And, think it's been going great. Knock on wood for a while now, and
One of them recently moved back
from
into
Huntsville.
town. Yeah.
So
The last couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you're continuing to heal that. Now you see your nephew. She's got a son. You said
I got a niece and nephew.
niece and nephew with her. Like, yeah. So
She's my youngest sister. So I have two other ones. One that lives in Texas, and the other one lives here in Baldwin County.
Are you like in the middle?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I'm
The third or the fourth?
the second.
Second?
Oh, my older sister in New Orleans, or Texas. She moved to Texas last year. She's 48. I'm 41. My other sister's 30, and the other one's 28. But we all, like I said, we all go through our ups and downs, and I'm just glad, I'm starting to see, a little light at the end of the tunnel. If my sister's starting to realize, we can't hold that grudge forever.
Right. It really does affect you more than it affects the other person. And really the forgiveness I've learned, as they say, is for you. It's your healing. Because
Right.
that releases their control over you.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they may not physically be controlling you in some way, that holding up onto that pain or the resentment, the anger is a way that their energy can still control you and keep you stuck in a loop, and continue to manifest, similar things or dynamics in your life until you learn to release it and forgive it and release it to God in love and forgive. So forgiveness is a huge lesson. It sounds like, I feel like maybe you had to learn in this life. I believe we all have life lessons that we come into this life to learn. I believe in reincarnation personally, but you may not believe in that. But I believe each life we are here to learn certain lessons. Our soul wants to learn to grow in some way, and that could be one of your major lessons is to learn to forgive yourself and then forgive others and then release that anger. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but that could be a major lesson. So, but yeah, that is hugely important, because it can manifest in all kinds of things in your life. And I'm learning that personally. Holding on to the anger, the need to control situations or have a certain outcome, you're trying to control it subconsciously. Uh, I've talked to you about that. That's something I'm working through. It was a family dynamic I grew up with. It's passed down ancestral trauma, curses, and I'm learning to try to break that. To release that need to control an outcome and release it to God and just surrender it to God and say, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to control it because it makes me an angry person. And it's hard to work through that sometimes. Sometimes anger overtakes you and you're like, I get lost. I'm like, what happened to me? Like, how did that happen? And anyway, so you mentioned how precious life is in a previous conversation we had, this morning before we recorded this. You want to go into any of that? Like why you believe that, like what kind of things, you don't have to go into any detail, but it really is important how that we realize moment to moment, like live it in the moment, enjoying every moment and not, staying in the anger of the moment of whatever somebody did to you. And I'm learning that too, to learn to release it quicker. You know what I mean? Sitting in that anger of they cut me off or whatever on the road or whatever. Learning to release it quicker. I'm learning day by day to let it go quicker and move on. And it's helped me a lot. You want to talk about a little bit about that? Like if you're working through some things like that too, aren't you?
You know, most of us have some kind of road rage. Some of them us don't. But like I said before, you never know what anybody's going through.
Right.
And what I try to live for today is trying to be a better person than I was yesterday.
Hmm.
Of course, always have my faith. You know, I've done wrong, but you know what? You got to move forward. You got to get past it. And my dad always used to say, bad times don't last, but bad people do. And I've learned that, the older I've gotten, you can pray anywhere. You can ask God for forgiveness anywhere. And just, a lot of people don't want to hear faith because a lot of them don't like to share it or don't believe in it. You know,
Hmm.
if it weren't for my faith, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And the thing is, it's just, just got to really stop and think, and count all the blessings that you do have versus what you don't have.
Right. That sense of gratitude all the time, you know, it definitely keeps you in a lot better headspace. It keeps your vibration higher. Um, it actually can help manifest more positive things in your life that come to you the more you stay in that sense of gratitude.
Yeah. I'm trying to pass on what I've learned over the years to my friends' kids that are growing up and having their struggles and challenges. And I'm trying to explain to them, look, you're going to have that for the rest of your life. A lot of people say, when you're done with high school, it's over with and done with, but it's not. We still have rules to follow. We still have things that we have to do. It's life. We're
Yeah.
going to have rules for the rest of our lives. We're going to have our struggles. We're going to have our bad days and our good days. Just like, we're all an addict on something. My addict is food.
Oh, I share that. I'm learning to work through that too,
Most of us do. Most of us are addicts to food.
or something. Anything. It could be anything.
But it's a shame, when you go out, and see these families that are all sitting at the dinner table and every one of them are on their phone.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart because I'm just grateful that when I was growing up, we always sat at the dinner table. We always, you know, opened up, every day or every night about what was your day like? What's on your plate? What's going on this weekend? It's just, we shared everything. But now it's like you eat and then they go into separate bedrooms. But all we can do is just pray and hope. And I believe things are going to get better.
Yeah.
You know,
I believe that too. And, we all do our part. We can do our part, by living that in our lives. And like you're doing, sharing it with the young, next generation coming up, you know, those values and why it's important because those things will get lost each generation, the more technology comes out, it starts taking over and removing that connection. The connection is what's important, in my opinion. It's part of life. It's part of why we're here, is to learn to connect with one another and realize that we're all one. Really, we're all created by the same creator.
well, yes, like you said before, connect and most important, communicate,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the people you know, that are in your life. And, I'm not saying open up to everything, but just be there and, check in from time to time just to say, hey, I'm here just thinking about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like I said, I have struggles like we all do, but all I can do is just keep moving forward. I can't go back. You can't live in the past. You got to live in the present.
Right. Well, we can change this to a little bit more positive. Like if you want to share something funny, or a funny story or something, it's on your heart to share. You've got a lot of funny stories. You're constantly cracking me up. I don't know how you have so many stories. I
think
love hearing your stories, though.
one of the greatest stories that I got was 2014. I got a call from a buddy of mine telling me that, hey, I need you to come to New Orleans with my truck and trailer. And I was like, okay, well, what's the catch? The catch is I need you to come pick me up. And I'm at my parents' house. And I'm like, are you out of your mind with a truck and trailer in New Orleans? It's already hard to move around in there anyway.
Yeah.
And it was a Thursday night. I'll never forget. It was 2 weeks from my birthday. And I was just like, okay, let's do it. So I get in that next morning, Friday morning. I call him, no answer. Call him again. Eventually calls me back. And I asked him, where are you? He goes, man, hey, look, I had a little much too much to drink. Just give me a couple more hours and I'll be ready to go. And I'm like, so what do you want me to do in the meantime? Go walk around, go talk to people like you like to do, listen to their stories, share your stories. So I noticed a guy pulling a sign out to the curb, and yet I remember it was Friday, and they had these local bands that come play that Friday night at these bars, and so I started talking to the guy. I was like, "Is there any way I can come inside and just sit up and wait for a buddy of mine to call?" And he said, "Sure, you go sit at the bar, but just remember, don't make I can't serve you anything. I understand. I'm just going to sit there and watch a movie on my laptop." And I turned around and sat down and started watching a movie. And I'm kind of an old school guy. I love old school classics. And of course, I love my comedy.
Classic cars, too.
Yeah. So as I'm sitting there, there's a guy at the corner of the bar who kept talking to me. And I can remember the guy who owned the bar says, "Do not talk to the gentleman in the corner." So,
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
right. So as I'm sitting there, I'm watching the movie, and of course, it's one of my favorite movies with Robin Williams. It's called Patch Adams.
Oh, yeah.
And as I'm sitting there, this guy gets up and starts getting closer and closer. And he finally starts talking to me. He goes, "What are you doing, boy?" "Well, what's it look like I'm doing? I'm watching a movie." He goes,
Such a.
and I was just like, I don't know, why would you even think that I'm. So I looked over at my shoulder, and you'll never believe it was the legend of Robin Williams.
Wow. The Robin Williams.
The Robin Williams.
In New Orleans.
In New Orleans.
Cool.
It really just opened my eyes, of course, having Robin Williams right next to me, but having a one-on-one conversation with him for almost 4 hours, hearing his struggles, his challenges, and just listening to his story. Like I said, we all have a story. We all have our good days and bad days, but it just really opened my eye, because you never know what anybody's going through.
Right.
And with him, he battled his addiction with alcohol. And, of course, he had depression. And it was just so shocking to see a man who can make everybody laugh and had millions of fans, all over the world, but he still had darkness.
Yeah.
And to see,
you never would have guessed it. When you see him in public, or when he's on a show being interviewed or whatever, he never showed it. He always quick-witted, make you laugh, drop of a hat. He always seems so joyful, and it really, you're right. Like, you just never know what people are going through. Some people are masters at masking the pain.
Well, you know the old saying, you don't never what's going on behind closed doors.
Right. And maybe now that this is kind of coming to me, maybe his acting and making people laugh was his form of transmuting that pain, making it like, taking that darkness and turning it into joy for others. Maybe it helped him process the darkness a little bit. You don't know,
Like I said, you never know. We all
Right.
have, and there's always three sides of the story.
Yep.
But with him, I sat there and explained to myself, like, what I've been through in my life. And he started opening up. And I asked him, questions a lot of people would ask, like, who was your role model? And he told me his mother. What was your favorite thing to do with your friends growing up? Because, well, Curly, I didn't have friends. My friends were my stuffed animals. I would come home from school and I would put them around in a circle and act like different people, like for instance, like Kermit the Frog was John, just, and my stuffed bear was, Teddy, and just something like that. But what I looked forward to every day was just spending time with my mom. Growing up, her and I used to play a lot of tennis, and I was just shocked. And but I'm a person who can read people very well, and I looked at them and I saw hurt.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't want to tell him, you know, but all I did is I just sat there and listened to him, and he gave me a little outlook on life, just like my father did, and it felt great, just to hear I'm not the only one who goes through, through bad days.
And this is somebody famous, a
Yeah,
celebrity that sharing this with you.
and
Gosh, you're very blessed to get a very intimate,
oh yeah,
discussion with somebody like that,
yeah, and it just felt amazing.
knowing that you can even relate with most famous Hollywood actors, like in their struggles.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
it was for sure. And like I said, and all I can do is just, I will hope I can remember this for the rest of my life. The time that I did share with them, and
He made
now,
a big impression on you. I could tell because you like a lot of his movies a lot. Like there's he's one of your favorites.
oh yeah,
And you think that really made a big difference for you as far as how much more of an impression he made on you after that meeting? You never know. You never know who's going to come your way and how they're going to affect your life, for the rest of your life.
you never
On that
know.
one meeting.
Yeah, you just never know
Right.
who's going to come in your life. Like you said, you never know.
Yeah, you didn't know you were going to meet Robin Williams in that bar that night.
No,
It's really interesting, how that happens. And that isn't the first one that you've met. So that's what's crazy is I don't think I've known anybody like you that is just living their life, la la la, doing normal things that we all do, and then whoop, here comes another one.
right?
The run-in with another famous celebrity or actor or whatever, and I'm like, another one. And it's just so relatable though, the stories that you tell, because you're literally just doing normal things like being an Uber driver and, oh hey,
Yeah,
needed some help. It's just really interesting how it's like that is part of your journey, like for some reason to run into these famous people. And I wonder why that is, but it's just interesting. I've never known anybody that not in Hollywood, and it just runs in randomly like these people that are famous. It's cool.
right.
So
It sure is a blessing. It really has been, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen good, I've seen dark. But you know what? I just got to keep moving forward. Can't give up.
yeah, if it's okay with you, you want to tell a little bit about your dad, like what he did, and
Well, my father wasn't really a father in my life until later in life. He reached out to me when I was about 10.
so he moved across the country though. You said when your parents split up when you were young,
Well,
you were how old? You were
like 2.
Okay, so you didn't remember that, but he went to
No.
San Diego, and your
Well,
mom moved to Pensacola, was it? With
yeah,
her
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 parents.
parents, right?
We were out in San Diego for a minute. My dad pretty much lived there his whole life. He was only in New Orleans for a hot minute.
So what did he do for a living?
Well, it all started, my dad was a fireman for 25 years.
Wow.
He did that for a long time. Did a lot of the wildfires. But, something changed. You know, he met a guy that had a business that was in the entertainment business, and, he was getting out of it, and he offered my dad, the leading role to say, hey, I'm getting out of this, business, and I'm ready to retire, and I've done it for 40 something years. And my dad's like, well, all I know is being a fireman. And he goes, well, I promise you this might be something you might want to look into. And he goes, well, let me talk to my brother and figure out what, he wants to do, because whatever I do, he's going to be on board or help support. And so in the early 90s, they they took that risk, and they got the company and built that company to, I can't remember, millions and millions of dollars.
Is it still today? Is it
I really don't know what the outcome was. You know, I know the name of my dad's business was called Image Events.
So what is that though? What did he do?
He used to do big, multi-million dollar events like Super Bowls. Like, he did the backgrounds of like the MTV Awards, the Oscars. He designed all that.
Like a set designer or like an
Yeah.
event? Yeah, okay.
And then he did Super Bowls, like I said before. His company did, you know, the Athens, Greece, Olympics when it,
Olympics, yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And he was over in Greece for 3.5 months, 4 months.
Hmm.
And I was just like, good Lord, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So he was doing this business, and you said you didn't spend a lot of time of your childhood with him.
No.
But then later in life, about how old were you when you reconnected with him physically?
14.
You went to go live with him for a while, or just stayed
No.
in the summer or something?
I stayed with him for a little bit during the summer, and then I didn't talk to him for about 6 months after that because I was just not ready.
Mm-hmm.
So then I saw him again at 15, and then I saw him repeatedly there for a while, and then
During the summers?
the summers,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Or you just spend the whole summer there, like 2 months or whatever, or like a
no,
month?
maybe
Yeah.
probably a little less than a month. But I always had my mindset, to move out there. And my dad at one time said, look, I think the best thing for you is to get away from Alabama and come live out here. I mean, there's a lot more opportunity. There's more things to do. And if you can't find it, you can always come work for me. And I was like, all
So
right.
you never thought about taking over his business, though?
Oh, no, not at all.
Hmm.
It's just, no. Um, but I tell you, like I said, you never know how short life is until
Right.
it's gone.
Yeah, you were saying that you weren't ready to, like, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean?
Well, just an example is like with my father, you know, we had we had everything set, for me to move out there.
When you were 14 or 15?
No,
Oh.
I was 19. Just,
Oh, right before you passed.
yeah.
Okay.
I lost my dad 2 weeks before I lost my birthday. or had my birthday, but
Oh. Sorry.
it's tough, especially when somebody's, trying to build that relationship that he lost, just like I'm trying to build my relationship back with my sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I believe everybody needs a second chance in life.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
But for the most part, things have been going well.
So when you were saying, going back to that, you weren't ready to build that relationship with him.
Yes. When I was younger,
You weren't emotionally ready. Is it because
I was just not ready because I just didn't feel like he was the father that he said he was. Because if he was, he would have called me sooner and would have got me out there sooner instead of, being out of the spotlight as long as he was. I was so grateful that I had a wonderful stepdad that's been in my life since I was, 6 years old. His name's Mark Miller. That, of course, we have our ups and downs too, but he truly has been there through it all. I thank God every day for being in my life, and
mm-hmm.
It
really did take on that responsibility of raising you?
Oh yeah.
Do you feel like your dad appreciated that he did that for you?
100%.
Or for him too as well?
100%.
He did. He expressed that to him.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. He did that for you fast. Now, I don't know why, but I'm feeling guided to go back to the story about how you weren't ready and why that is. I don't know if you want to we could delve into that a little bit more if you feel comfortable doing that.
I just didn't feel ready because my gut told me no. Don't give him a chance. Because I can remember hearing stories when I was a kid how he was towards my mom and towards other people, but we go back.
Like, what kind of things are you talking about when you say that story?
Just being mean, being violent.
When he was drinking.
Drinking.
Yeah.
But
physically and verbally, or just verbally?
Like I said, I don't really
You
know.
don't remember.
I'm just going by stories I was told by my grandmother, by my uncles,
Mm-hmm.
by my mother. But like I said, everybody deserves a second chance, and that's when I finally opened that door and said, God, I really need you, and just please be beside me when this next chapter enters in my life, and
With your dad?
yeah.
Like opening your heart to reconnect it and build that back with him?
Yes.
So how long did you have when you first did that?
Until he passed.
Until he passed. Yeah. How long did you have?
6 years.
Okay, so you had a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously you weren't there the whole time, but
No.
you were talking to him more on the phone when you were out there, like more regularly, you would say?
Almost every night.
Oh, wow. That's a big difference. That's a big change. Do you feel that you got the resolution that you needed before he passed, or did you feel like there was some things you wished had happened?
Yes, I still had more things on my plate. I wanted to share with my father and hear his side of the story, because I heard it from all the people that didn't like him, that hated him. I wanted to hear his side.
But he had changed, later in life, right? You were saying
he did, but
because that's why he was starting to rebuild his relationship with you and make up for what he
missed.
Right.
But I never got around to say that to him because he was always busy. He was always traveling.
You know that he can hear you now.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and you talk to him, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Because I talk to my parents every once in a while too, and it. So you feel now? Have you told him those things you wanted to tell him in person? Have you told him that spiritually, talking to him now, him being on the other side?
No, I haven't.
You think that would help?
I don't know. I can always try.
Okay. I think that's probably a really heck for me even. I think that would help me,
Yeah.
even just talking through it right here with you. Um, I know I've been working, told you about this, but I'm going to share it with the audience. I know I've been working a lot with forgiving my parents for abandoning me in a way on this earth. And I hate to say it like that because, most people are like, well, what, don't you feel like sad that they're gone? Well, of course I do. But I had a sense of abandonment, a huge sense of abandonment for both of them. And it wasn't just the fact that they physically crossed over and passed away out of this life. It was also emotionally, you know. But I understand now. I'm more evolved now, and I've done a lot more healing now, where I could see the bigger picture, in that it served its purpose for me. I had to get that wounding from the time I was younger and work through that in order to break the family curses on my family line, and to overcome those challenges in order to do what I'm doing now and stepping into my power and my life purpose to help others heal by sharing my story, by working through. Currently I'm still working through it, and you're helping me, and I really appreciate that greatly. You've been a great, wonderful friend for me to open up to. I feel safe to open up to you about anything I'm going through, even, my fears of even being in a future relationship. It goes back to the abandonment one that I'm talking about with my parents, and I'm still working through that, but that's why I'm sharing this, and I now understand that's why I had to go through that. That's what I signed up for, is to help learn how to overcome those things and show people that, I've done it. You can do this too. You can work on yourself and, work through those fears. And yes, it's a continual process. We're always in a state of healing, I believe, throughout our lives. There's always layers to every wound, I've learned. And sometimes when you think you've healed it, like another layer will come up that needs to be addressed and released. Fears and things like that related to wounds. So I think that's really good that you went into that a little bit, because that kind of helped me a little bit. Like, say that I can talk to my parents, and that probably would help me.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, I've written letters to them, personally. Obviously, I can't give it to them, but
Yeah.
that I deleted them because they were Word documents, and when I was ready.
But you can always read it back to them in their prayers, or your
Right.
prayers.
Yeah. And just say, thank you. I wasn't thanking them in the moment, but or even a few months ago, um, because I felt so hurt and abandoned by them. But now I understand, on coming on this side of it, of the healing process, that it was all for a purpose,
Right.
to do my higher work, and you never know, like, everything happens for a reason, I believe. And we may not understand that for many, many years. And I mean, we may never understand in this life until we cross over the other side and everything's revealed to us. But I believe everything happens for a reason. And really, even the painful things that happen to us like that, always for our highest good, for at some point in our lives, to help us grow in some way and to help us ascend on our, ascension process of becoming more like, Jesus and God. And we don't see it at the time. We won't see it for years sometimes, because we haven't worked through it to that point. But I feel like I'm now at that point. I'm on the other side of it, getting on the other side of it now, where I can see the higher picture and see how that catalyzed me. Yeah, I could have had a choice to become a victim and stay a victim, like many do. And, there's no judgment on people that do that. Some people get stuck in their healing journey, and they get stuck in the wounding for many, many years, and some never make it out. But I could have had that same choice that everybody else had, to stay in that wounding, stay in the victim mentality, in the lack mentality, and not work through that and not challenge myself to rise above and become better and not repeat those same cycles. But I made that choice, to continue trying to be open-hearted, but be vigilant with my heart and, have some boundaries. I've learned through the process that was something I needed to learn this lifetime was boundaries heavily with my heart. And it's still, again, a process of learning that. But I think that it's great that you really went into that about your dad. Even like you said to me before, about talking about these things, even just like we're talking, is a form of healing. Sometimes you need to talk about it to, release certain things or understand certain things better. So,
You're right. Because all we can do is just be grateful every day. And I'm just glad, that you came in my life and have helped me overcome a lot of things and get a lot of things off my chest. And it just feels really, honored and blessed.
I feel the same way about you. You've had been a wonderful friend to me and helped me work through some things already, some release of some wounds and things, and
Right.
working through some of my fears of opening my heart again,
It's hard.
even if it is friendship right now, but it's just the fear of opening yourself up vulnerably to that extent with somebody and letting them in is hard. Because I can get to a certain point and I'm great, blah blah blah. I'll keep it surface level, but when I get to that point, past that point, it's really hard for me to open up, and I run. And you really helped me start working through that anyway. I mean, I still got a lot of work, but we had a major milestone recently about that, and me not running away and shutting down.
Right.
So that was a huge transformation for me, just taking that step right there. And you challenged me. And that's what I love about our relationship is we're not afraid to, challenge each other and call each other out. When we see, hey, you're not, you're not being authentic. You're not being, you know, here's a point where you can choose to overcome something and you're not taking it. You're that person right there for me right now that's saying, hey, we could choose to run away. You can go choose to run away and you let me, make the choice. And I love that. Instead of trying to force a situation, you say, hey, there's an opportunity. We can, sit down. We can sit down and talk about it right now. We can work through it. And you can use that opportunity to grow from it, or you can run away and continue in your cycle. And when you called me out, I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, you're right. Like, trust me, everything in me wanted to shut down and run away and just, have my little temper tantrum and just run away. But, you challenged me. And I really like that about you, that you really helped me, overcome a lot of these things. And I do believe that's part of why you're in my life, you know? And I thank God that, He brought you into my life to help me work through a lot of these fears and things, to open up again and grow, continue to grow. Because I think that's really important to have people in your life that are real with you and will call you out and call you to account when you're not being your most authentic self, or when you're, you know, kind of living a lie, or you're not changing a toxic pattern or something, and they see it. They call you to account for it, and they help you, give you an opportunity to work through it and help you through it. So I think that that's really important, and I'm very thankful to have people like that in my life now, like you. So anyway, you have anything else that you would like to share this episode? We can continue to have, future episodes, future interviews, but I think, we can kind of wrap it up right here. We went into a lot of good things in this episode.
We did.
And I really want to thank you for, it's not easy for some people to get on. I know we're not doing camera this time, at your request, but I think that it's really important to know that, not a lot of people like coming and sharing their stories like this out in the public, even if it's not on camera. And so it takes a lot of courage to do that. So I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having this opportunity with me.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for opening up to that extent for the audience. And I know that it'll help some people out there.
I hope so. It's sure it's helped me hearing people's stories, struggles, like I said before. But now it's my turn to share my stories and struggles.
Yeah. And we'll go into that in future episodes as, we feel guided to.
Exactly.
So I just want to close this out by saying thank you everybody for listening. And please like, comment, subscribe. And even if you hit the share button and you don't end up sharing it, it still helps my algorithm on my videos. So I want to ask people if they wouldn't mind if they feel guided to do that. Just do that. It helps get the word out to others and the stories out to others so that it may help other people. But again, I hope you join me for a future episode with Derrek. And thank you again, Derrek, so much for joining me on this episode. And I hope everybody joins me for a future episode. And I will be seeing y'all later or talking to y'all later.
Thank you.